All right, check it out, guys. First time going live directly on YouTube. Let's see how many people we get in the room. Uh, I got to learn this platform. I got to see how I haven't done this but a time or two. Check my sound. Okay, all right. Got the share screen. Got okay. It's first time, so I'm normally here using my actual app. The my Restream application. But he on YouTube. I'm here for the first time to see if this live thing works. For me, I haven't done this too much. For those who tune into the Realist podcast, we're not tuning in live. We're gonna have a few discussions. I just got to get used to this platform, so it's all good. Those who want to come to the room, come in. And you're welcome. Let me check everything. Okay, everything is the screen is right. Okay, shit looking cool. Okay, here we go. Let me see if I can do some. Let me see how this shit working out real quick. All right. Let me see. Let me share. See if the share button work. People in the room. Okay. Return home. Let's see if I can copy link. See if I can do this. All right. Seeing if the share is working. All right. All right. Hopefully we don't. Hopefully they don't trying to suspend us and shit. From sharing and let's just see how this YouTube thing works. Let's see how we get down tonight. All right. So tonight's show is what did I name the show? Let me see what we call the show. Title and stuff, man. I got to get used to this YouTube apparatus real good. Here we are. But we're gonna I did write the show out in my notes. Yeah, active adult children, but also it's. I know the show has another title as well. Let me look and see if I can see the other title of the show. Let me see and see how this thing gonna go. Anyway, we got some book shares. We got plenty of book shares tonight. Um, First book share I wanted to show you was this book right here, The Affairs of West Africa, right here. This would show you indeed a whole great deal of detail when it comes to how treaties were had, um, production was recorded between what was done from the Americas and what was done in from Africa and even other countries of as far as who was the higher producers, who was the most um, who was like that. You know, on the Wilderness podcast, the reason why I like to go through these studies in these trimesters with us is because we have to understand, where we are in life collectively. And when I try to share my voice, which is trying to explain and extend to you some knowledge that you just may not be aware of because of my unique experiences. So, when I say active adult children, you have to understand who runs the world. And when you get so big, you run the world out of emotion. You run you run anything, and when power meets power is absolute power, then it becomes power versus force. And who has to get their way? Then it becomes ego. And so all of these things has to do with how we have come to this actual boiling point in history right now because of the perpetuated lies that has been bestowed upon and up to this specific point. See, The one book that I wanted to show you tonight. Oh yeah. Yeah. Here you go. Western civilization. Yeah, but let me show you the fallacies and even the construct of all of this. All of this. It was all of Western civilization was predicated upon the destroying of what they would call the old world in order to introduce the new world under their leadership. Meaning that regardless of who created anything, regardless of whoever invented anything, they will consume it as if of their own. That doesn't make you the creator, that makes you the robber, that makes you the taker, that makes you the thief. So, to be quite honest with you, this book right here, Western Civilization, it explains it all. But I also have other books that tell the actual same story, but from a different perspective. So, when you challenge the things that's why I wanted to come to you direct tonight on YouTube to show you and to express to you how I can understand how you would do something like this, but you got to understand everything that's in here is an amalgamation of what you have consumed, not what you have given to the world. There's a big difference. Consuming is when you understand trade routes and how when you become the world's brutal orchestrator, you can amalgamate things. You call it bringing people together, but it's actually, we know this, exploitation. As long as you have the right hand to rule and the left hand to dominate, there's no stopping you. So that made the Western colonization ideological perspective palatable for you, not for everyone else. So it's a big difference when you become a knowledgeable person that knowing that, yeah, people did shuffle and move around and everybody in the world does share DNA. Collectively, we do. So you have these phony or quote unquote allegedly uh, DNA tests that don't tell the story of the actual Aboriginal people that were in place in all of the lands of the world. So everywhere that Europeans set out to conquer, they met dark skinned Aboriginal people of different complexions and phenotypes, mind you. But with you understanding these things, you also have to understand that it has to be true because what happened here in the West was a result of the issues that amalgamated in the East. They don't like to tell you those different empires that existed globally. That's why you have this book here. It tells you a slanted, distorted, colonized, ideological, mythological perspective, but they made it real. They made it very, very, very real. And it's through dangerous, but yet useful. This is my college book. I paid for this book. This is my book. So I own this book. This is not a checkout. This is a book that I took up Western civilization. When you I went to Northern Virginia Community College and I took up Western civilization, and that's my degree was in sociology at the time. So I was studying. I had to study the ways and the architectural ways of thinking of humanity. And I had to say, wait up, I fall up on the Western colonizing philosophical mind state as well, simply because I'm an Aboriginal from North America, from Pensacola, Florida. And the thing that I have been learning up to, learn this in Virginia. This is the colonial states with the Powhatans and the Pamunkey, and they even told certain specific tales about a lot of things in this specific book that we're gonna get into some of the commentary of it, absolutely. But to be quite honest with you, I have multiple references that would challenge. And even the verbiage in this book is they call Africa the Middle East in this book. The Middle East. I took this class in 2002, 2003 timeframe. They call Africa the Middle East in this book. Oh, yeah, yes, they do. I can prove it to you. First of all, how they even, this depiction of the world and how they carved it out is a misnomer. That is a very false depiction of the globe. Yeah, room 312. I remember this. I took this physically in the classroom. Me and my teacher used to get into it. So this is part one, the Near East. As I told you, as you can see, the black people, the Africans on the chariots, and all of the depictions of black Africans. But this is part one, the Near East. Look at what they call Africa, the Near East. Check it out, y'all. Check it out. The Near East. And look at this book. And they say the foundation of Western civilization is Africa, the Near East. They say the Near East. They won't say Africa. They say the Near East. I keep telling Europeans, you are African children. The Near East. See, they tell the truth in plain sight, but you just have to have the knowledge to understand. The Near East. Come on. Human history in the Mediterranean world began only about 400,000 years ago. You hear this? Human history in the Mediterranean world began only about 444. They tell you, listen, 40,000 years ago. In a complete evolution of Homo sapiens, sapien, the fully modern human sapien, which we all belong. Oh, check this out. Civilization is even more recent development. To the people of the ancient world, civilization, government, literature, science, and arts was necessarily a product of civic life. But cities only became possible as a result in the agricultural technological discoveries that emerged between the end of the last ice age and about 13,000 years ago, and the approach of Mesopotamia to the first true cities approximately 5,000 years ago. The story in Western civilization, thus the short one. Uh, this is what they say. The story of Western civilization is thus a short one. In geological time, it is but a momentary blip on a radar screen. From their origins between Tigris and Euphrates rivers in modern day Iraq, cities grew up throughout the Near East world. Independent cities gave up empires that rose and fell in turn around 12,000 BC. In placement in the middle of the first millennium BCE, but new empires that were larger, better armed, more aggressively imperialistic than any of their predecessors. Do you hear this hogwash shit? Did you see the setup? Do you see the aggressive, Neolithic, Neanderthal, beastly, cruel, taker? You see that? That's the setup. All in the and that's part one. Listen to that. Listen to that whole setup. That whole setup. At the same time, dramatic development were occurring in the religious and cultural life. The pyramids of Egypt, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the works of Homer, and the religious tradition of Zoroastrianism and Judaism had all taken shape by the time our period closed around 500 BCE. Upon these foundations, all the subsequent civilizations of the Western Mediterranean world had continued to rest. What? Now that start out that whole pitch is a lot of what you call arrogance. The Western world. Arrogance. See, the blip in time. Okay. So then they show you this timeline. Check it out now. This is how they run it down. Of what how, the stilling process. This now look how they run it down. Check it out. Can you see it? Now talk about a fabrication. A complete fabrication of a timeline of history. And this is and first of all, the name, the Near East, but this is the most check this out. The origins of Western civilization in the ancient Near East. Check it out. Hold on. This is good. This is getting good. Check it out. It starts off with a black man. This is in your book now. This is in your book for Caucasians that don't understand. Okay. Catherine Morland, the heroine of Jane Austen, the novel. Northanger, Abbey, complained that history tells me nothing that does not either vex or weave me. Okay. Okay, whatever. All right, but check it out. Let's get into this. This is extremely important, ladies and gentlemen, about how the hijack continues to it starts in listen to the term again. The origins of Western civilization in the ancient Near East. They couldn't say Kemet. They couldn't even say uh uh um they couldn't say they said the Near East. Okay. But listen, we're gonna switch it up because they're gonna bring up the Sumerians in this. Yeah. Yeah. They're gonna admit to the Sumerians being oh no, it's gonna be in the book. Let's get there real quick for you just get for you don't lose so much interest in what I'm trying to tell you. Let's get there. They're gonna bring up the upper Paleolithic era, and this is how I'm telling you. This is the whole trick bag of every single solitary foundation of what Harvard and the and what you would call Ivy League. This is what they were taught. This right here. Hog wash, interwoven, fabricated, narcissistic propaganda terminology. The Neolithic Revolution. The greatest villages near East. Syria, uh, Arcade, Mesopotamia. Check all this out now. Check it out now. Mesopotamia and the emergence of the first cities and pyramid civilizations. Oh, and they talked about the Fertile Crescent, and they also ran straight to the Greeks. Understand all of this, straight to the Greeks. So let's go. Let's keep going. Development of writing. Okay, cuneiform writing. Hold on. Here we go. Watch this now. Watch how they go straight into it. Check it out. They put it in here. Right there. Okay. Yep, there it is. All right, here we go. Here we go. Let's keep moving. Sumer. Okay. Uruk. 43 to 290 BCE. By the beginning of the fourth millennium, urbane settlements were concealing into a larger, more prosperous site with even more elaborate temples, buildings, and villages planned in the period named after its more impressive site, the great Sumerian city, Uruk, modern Warka. Witnessed the traditions, Neolithic urban villages, and Sumerian cities it marked, therefore, in the true beginning of civilization in the Mediterranean world. Keynote in the Mediterranean world, not the world, just the Mediterranean world. Keynote that, understand that, please understand. The Mediterranean world. All right. Among the principal developments of the period of the future elaborate of the temple architecture and the trend reflecting only they admitting that the architecture and all of the things that exist even now today, those temples were already here. That's what they know. That's what they're admitting in the times. So that's who they're saying they pray to. Now, this is all in the construct of Baal, mind you. Keyword Baal. All right. So the trend reflected only in centenarily in the religion in the lives of those communities, but also in the seizing of wealth and the control of the priestly class of the communal life. The White Temple of Uruk provided stunning example of the general trend sometime between 3500 and 3300 BCE. Builders constructed massively sloping platforms and towering nearly 40 feet above the surrounding flat, flatlands. The platform, with the four corners and the cardinal points and the compass, was dressed in brick. Atop of a platform stood another structure and shrine and temple proper, also dressed in brick, but planted brilliant white, perhaps dedicated to the sky god known in the later Sumerian sources as An. And it's actually Anu. You understand? Anu. The temple betrays the ambition serving gods and increasingly momentarily, and it has begun suggesting providing that with mountaintop homes and part of the world conspicuous for its absence of mountains. Such temples which grew across Sumer, reflecting the increasingly urbanized character of Sumerian life throughout the region. Small satellite villages were falling under the control of the greater cities. Uruk, an example of organized under the management of the various settlements and the separate irrigation systems, uh, extending for 6 miles in every direction. The larger villages were also growing rapidly. The teeming economy actively, almost certainly attracted to the immigrants. Uruk and other principal cities also now characterize the densely packing dwellings across accessed by wind streets. And by the end, Uruk appeared in summer and also sharing a common language and in fact made clear thanks to the invention that most of the Sumerian fully into the light of history writings. Didn't I tell you this? They tell you in their own literature, but then they get into the early dynastic periods of Sumeria and certain words, amulets, and it tells you all kinds of stories that has nothing to do with European civilization. They thought they were the beholders and children of those, or as far as being enlightened. These stories had nothing to do with them at all. They encompassed and wrote themselves into things that had nothing to do with them whatsoever. If you see all of things, this is why you have books like this. Black Spark White Fire. which they would tell you how the white race came to be and how they came about, and the attitudes that they absolutely impressed it upon themselves simply because they could not do for self. And even in that book, it told you where in that region they failed. Failed. So even when the Etruscans, the Phoenicians went into the area to save you again, that's where you is the black spark. That's where the black spark is, right? Black spark. And taught you customs and gave you a civilization which gave you fire. So fire and atrociousness meets world domination. That's power versus force. So you would think if I have all this force, I can take and maintain power. But yeah, when you don't know how to maintain power only through force, you create continuous conflict because you won't waver from your illegitimate ways and understand the communion of humanity you prefer to dominate, which you're not very good at dominating because who is? No one. You can only dominate for a certain amount of time and then you are depleted and diminished from defending. See, we have to walk into a new era of participation and appreciation and understanding that we have to see who we are from the roots of who we are. You have to understand if you don't know who you are and you don't understand why you should not be in certain positions of authority or you should not be in certain positions of uh, leading people, is because you are inept. Everything is not competition. Some things are about wellness and the wellness of people, and how when you can operate properly mentally, you can push that out in a very higher regard due to not being disturbed. But when you want to participate in disturbing and distributing disruptive behavior globally, then who wants to be always disrupted? That doesn't give anybody peace. But the only way you can get to peace is you have to understand that if you're still distributing the same behaviors that you have always distributed, you need to understand specifically now how not to keep distributing those behaviors by understanding what you have always done and what you should stop doing. It's just like a clock. A clock keeps going round and round. Humanity, we go round and round. We repeat ourselves. We go round and round with each other in order to what? Figure out how to get along with each other. So I am not here to segregate, diminish, or degrade anyone in humanity. But what I am here to say is we have to keep telling the truth about how we operate. Because to get to a better place, we have to keep moving forward. We got to understand how it happened. And if it happened that way, we have to move forward after that. But if you don't want to listen to the lessons and how these lessons have come to be, then that's just up to you. So let's get to some points I wanted to bring out in this book, Black Spark White Fire. Yes, indeed. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah, this is some beholding information here for you. The Grail Knights. All right, we're gonna learn about Knights Templars, something like that. But check it out. All right, here we go. On a lonely seaside, Palm- promontory, some miles south in the Israeli port of Haifa, stands the ruins of a crusade castle called Alit. It was built in 1280 by the order of the kings who called themselves poor fellow soldiers of Christ in the Temple of Solomon. Understandably, the group seldom used its full name. Sometimes it called itself the Knights of the Temple of Solomon, other times just the Order of the Temple, but it favor abbreviation. But its favorite abbreviation, and the one by which history knows it best, was the Knights Templars. The castle, look straight. The castle of was excavated by archaeologists in 1932. On the grounds, they found a cemetery that nearly 100 graves, most of them long since worn smooth by any inscriptions, but some still bore a few markings. Of these, two graves were carved, which could only be called Masonic insignia, such as a square hammer and a plumb stone. The Masonic nature of these emblems was confirmed to, in fact, be one of the tombstones bearing the evidence belonging to a man holding the title Master of the Templar Masons. Other Templars' graves have been founded mostly in Europe, bearing similar emblems. But the tombstones of Ufflet, a castle occupied by Templars only from 1280 to 1221, or to 1218 to 1261, clearly constituted what British writers Michael Biget and Richard Lay have called the earliest known incidents of gravestones bearing Masonic devices, just whom were Knights Templars. And what did they have to do with Freemasonry? The Templars were the order of warrior monks sworn to poverty, chastity, and obedience. The official mission was to protect the horde of Christian pilgrims who had deceded in the Holy Lands following Jerusalem capturing the Crusaders in 1099. But some researchers have concluded that the real purpose of the Templars was quite different from the official ones. When the first Knight Templars arrived in Jerusalem in 1119, they completely ignored the pilgrims. Instead, they would set up the headquarters of Al Aqsa Mosque right next to the ancient city of Solomon's Temple and started digging. The enthusiasm which brought the Templars burrowing into the Temple Mountain led British researchers Graham Hancock to speculate that there might have been some research as some treasure and relics reputed in this buried beneath Solomon's Temple. The southern end of the Temple Mount, where the kings lived in a honeycomb. Let me read that again. The southern end of the Temple Mount, where the kings lived, was a honeycomb with subterranean chambers carved out of rock of the King Herod the Great. Listen to that again. Carved, carved out of the rock King Herod the Great during the Roman era. The Templars greatly enlarged their catacombs, fitting their elaborate arches, vaults, and the roofs. They also drug new staffs deep into the livestock and living rock. Nobody knew that the Knights Templars ever found what they were seeking. They stayed in Jerusalem only until 1187, when the Muslim king Sahaladin recaptured the city. By 1291, the Muslims had driven the Templars from Palestine altogether, and by 1312, their order was officially dissolved. Nevertheless, the Templars' legacy lives on. To this day, rumors and legends above abound that the Knights Templars acquired some kind of secret, mystical knowledge during their 172 years in Palestine. And check this out as well. The Templars may have not found anything beneath the rock in the Jerusalem Temple Mount, but they do seem to have gained some uncanny stored of wisdom. In a brief, in the brief 194 years in existence, a tiny band of 9 French knights grew to become one of the largest, wealthiest, and most powerful religions, orders in Europe. Thanks to the glamorous reputation and defenders in the Holy Land, every king in Christendom competed to shower in the Templars with riches and estates. In 1131, the king of the Aragon actually bequeathed the third of this kingdom to the Templars. Before the long order of the Templars held lands and castles all over Europe and Palestine, it soon branched into businesses, acquiring its own fleet of ships and making its fortune in trade. The uniform of the Templars, a brilliant white mantle decorated with red pellet cross, became a familiar sight in every royal court, harbor, and courting house of Europe. Popular belief holds that Jewish moneylenders were the chief financiers of medieval Europe, but in fact, the Templars did a far brinkier business. They operated on full scale international banking systems, taking deposits and issuing letters of credit and lending money in interest rates and could soar high as 60% of later payments. Henry VIII of England once found himself so deeply in debt to the Templars that he had to turn over the crown and jewels and collateral. The greatest of the most lasting, glorious Templars, however, laid in neither the military prowess nor the fabulous wealth. It laid in their skills in architecture. Some of the finest churches and castles in the Middle Ages were built by Templars. Everywhere they settled, they left in their distinctive round tables, modeled after the circular church and the holy uh, sculpture that stand. Christ's tomb in Jerusalem, architecture in St. John's, and excavating the Templars' castle at Atlet, remaking one of the exceptional skills of its builders, which far exceeded ordinary medieval standards. In his 1992 book, The Signs of the Seal, Graham Hancock suggested that the Templars' prowess in building seeming of the secret architectural traditions inherited from the ancient times to which Templars had somehow become privy. Only likely sources that traditions may have been Circin, Abbot Bernard of Clairvaux, later to become Saint Bernard. Hancock points out that the Templars own their very existence to this power cleric who superseded the Pope, Honorius II, and gained approval for the new order. Bernard was known as the leading proponent in sacred geometry and Gothic architecture. During the building of the Charlotte's Cathedral, Bernard was constantly behind the scenes playing the bishops with charge chartreuse, which in his phew, atheistic advice of meeting frequently with geometry and Gothic architecture. Okay, but you get what I'm point with his Asiatic advice and meetings frequently with the masons and architects, Bernard geometry in the churches everywhere. There must be no decoration to one's clergy, only proportion. On other occasions, Bernard cryptically remarked, "What is God? His length, width, height, and depth." So when you talk about the secrets of masonry and all of these, even that you what you know today and how you understand things today, what you really should do is pick up this brilliant book, very brilliant book. Um, they didn't want these type of books in circulation. That's why they wanted them gone. That's why they try to pipe me down. But they'll sell it. But these books need to be put out, and people need to understand the perspective of why certain people they adopt certain characteristics, you adopt certain ways that you wasn't born with them. I was born with them, so the ways and how which people think and move and operate is up to what you know, and it's up to the fundamentals and foundations of how things have even come to be. So I brought up the Sumerian cultures. I brought up all of these different type of cultures. I brought up all of these different, these cultures that were not European at all. These were not Caucasians. These were Aboriginal people, global Aboriginals, and that's just one part of the land that they say they come from. That they understand how they take. But I told you how things have a whole different scale of imagination when you read it from a different perspective. Let's get to the next what moment. All right. Who invented everything? That's what I just described to you. What does Black American really mean? The same thing as I read to you of those lands. We were the orchestrators of these lands. Mound builders, Mississippians. That's what I'm normally speaking of. So so I'm just putting even those lands. When you look up Uruk or the Middle East, and you look at the Fertile Crescent in the east, in the west, Fertile Crescents in the west. What is the Fertile Crescents in the west? That's Tulum. That's where you got the Olmecs. That's where you got the Mayas. That's where you got the Aztecs. That's where you have those same identical civilizations erupting again around the same times too. So it just wasn't going on in one place. These were the black lands that these type of, so even China, same thing. So I see people peeking in and peeking out, but they don't want to deal with the actual, the truth as to what it is. So that's just what it is. The thing is, people try to tell anybody with dark skin flesh they have no roots. How? When we are the root. If you have this complexion, you are extremely rooted. It's just up to you to know your origins. And it's okay of what your origins are. If your origins are whatever you have discovered them to be, they are yours. And when people start thinking and saying that they know you or they can be you better than you, then how? Does that make any sense to you? No, it does not, especially when you know you for you by how you have studied and even understood yourself. That's where your power lies. Your power always lies in what you determine and what you've known and what you discover about self to get to know thyself. That's what this is all about. So at the end of the day, you understand how to value you from a centered internal place without being, orchestrated by other people and other means of how they see you. Check it out. All right. They try to tell you you have no values when your whole construct of civilization globally has been set up on the values of indigenous cultures. So you're just the active people in those places. And if you're active, you understand and you appreciate the values, and that's beyond skin complexion. That's when it becomes spiritual, because that's when we can reach beyond complexion and start being spiritual again. We can start understanding and appreciating each other again, and we can leave and we can finally overcome this complicated, destructive apparatus called racism. It's a destructive apparatus that you think that I'm perpetuating, participating in. No, no, not at all. That's not my game. That's not what I do. That's not how I construct myself either. But that doesn't mean I got to tell it like you want it to be. You just have to find it within yourself to understand and listen and appreciate when it's coming from just a book share. You don't have to, what I'm saying, get all angry and have an attitude about, how you want to do what you need to do for yourself. We can actually have a conversation. We don't always have to, go at each other's throats. So anyway, I'm going to keep on going on. We're going to get to the next book moment. So here we go. Some people only value tearing other people apart. I don't value tearing no one apart. What I do value is expressing the truth, because every time I express the truth, someone feels like I'm tearing them apart, so they jump on the absolute defense. And man, you know how many times I've been called a derogatory term in the past, since expressing myself on Facebook. And I guess this little band of community of people started trying to attack me. And that's, it is what it is. It's all fair play. But, I take none of that stuff seriously. It doesn't hurt my feelings. I don't care. But when it comes destructive and demeaning and despicable, and that's not fair play. Everybody don't have those same type of jokes. I don't care for it. So that's on you. I'm not into it. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, and people feel how they feel. So it's cool. But it ain't so cool because it shows you how unlearned and how despicable you actually are. To be quite honest with you, just to let you know how I feel about it. So anyway, next what moment? Hurt people need to heal instead of continue to hurt people. I think that's a good place to go. That's a good thing to do too. So anyway, it's about that time. Had a good time. Haven't done a live on YouTube in quite some time, so I'm still a little uncomfortable. I'm going to continue to try to muscle and go on through with it, do more shares because I know people that do a lot. They do a lot more screen sharing and things of that nature that I got to get, more involved. I got to, I'm an engineer, so I operate with computers all day. So sometimes I prefer to relax and speak because sometimes I'm quiet for quite some times throughout the day. So anyway, nevertheless, I appreciate y'all tuning in. I appreciate y'all giving me a chance to get on this YouTube live for damn like this is like the first time this year that I've or in a long time. I think I did this like twice, 2 or 3 times last year. Then I switched to the app. I'm more comfortable in the app because I can operate how I feel. But anyway, it's been a cool show. It's been a great book share. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to me. But check it out. That's the show tonight. So say it with me. The wheel is yours. Be cool, my people. Be straight.